Hey YouTube, this is Zach with AchillesFinancial, and today I am showing you my savings stock portfolio, which is something that is recently started that all we are doing is buying smaller companies with growth potential, selling covered calls, and then using those covered calls to purchase additional shares. So I haven't added any additional funding to this account for a while, and this is just something exciting that I thought I would share. And what we've started with is actually 3 stocks, which are still all under $10 a share. And I wanted to showcase that here on the channel. Again, we've talked about a number of these within the past few weeks, but I wanted to kind of pull all of that information together in an aggregated format. So this is those positions. We'll talk about each company individually. But first and foremost, what I have here on the screen is Aquabounty, GILT, and IDEX or Ideanomics. So we'll go a little bit in depth for each one of these, but as you can see, I've got 100 shares of Aquabounty. I purchased all of those at $5.47 that you can see through the cost available here. And as you can see, the stock is currently trading at $6.59. So that's where that $103 gain is coming from. The next stock is actually Gilat Satellite Networks. I just made a video on this earlier this week. I'll throw that in here as one of the cards. But this is a company that just signed a pretty huge deal with the United States Department of Defense in terms of satellite technology. So I will make sure that you check up on that. Another good company. As you can tell, I have purchased that. I've gotten 11 shares with my average price being $6.04. So that was a pretty solid pickup. The way that I purchased those 11 shares was strictly off of these covered calls between IDEX or Ideanomics and Aquabounty. So it's pretty cool to see that kind of slowly aggregate. The IDEX shares, as you can see, despite the fact that I have a 20% loss, this is actually one of the relatively smaller holdings in terms of total, as well as I have made money off of the covered calls that you can see right here. So I'm not too worried about that. Again, the actual cost is, this is a portfolio that originally started right off $1,000. And as you can see, I have already made, just by selling these covered calls, right at $100. So what you can't see here is one additional Ideanomics call that I had previously sold. So there's a lot of moving parts here, but let's get started in terms of kind of what these companies look like. So first and foremost, Aquabounty. This is a company that is involved in aquaculture, not to be confused with agriculture. But what this company does is they essentially run salmon farms, and you can actually see some of the more in-depth information I'll leave here on the screen. But what they're doing is they are looking at the proteins in particular and providing a steady source of food that you are capable of purchasing. This is 100% a speculative play, but it's one that since I've purchased it has been working out, although today was where most of those gains came from. So this is an interesting company because they have a strong story or a good story that they can tell, and they have some financials that can kind of back that up. Although I am not super excited, I should say, about their current position in terms of the overall growth metrics when we're looking at it. However, the good news is they have a lot of cash on hand, so they're capable of continuing to invest in the company. Some of my concerns whenever we work with I trade with companies like this is I am always worried about what happens if they say we're going to offer additional shares. That's always my concern. But this has given me some exposure outside of my traditional semiconductor-based type of stocks. So the next thing that we're going to be looking at is actually not the other 2 stocks, but I do want to highlight that we do have our Discord. So I will link that in the section in the description below. But this is where we go over various plays. We talk about different companies in here. We're building our following in here. Again, we do talk about a number of different items in here. We say, hey, this is why we're doing picks. I've started doing my watch list in here over what I'm looking at for the day. So there's a lot of good moves. As you can see, we got the BA play today, and this is one that has continued to perform really, really well. So again, if you are interested, that will be in the description. Feel free to check it out. So I use this section to once again plug. I did have a video earlier this week where I go more in depth, but essentially this is a satellite company and they are largely in the 5G space, in the satellite communication space, but also in the military space. And the reason that I highlight military is because some of the cause for driving the stock price to go higher has been largely based off of their deal with the U.S. Department of Defense. So that information is still available, but again, it's a good company, and again, our position kind of shows some of that growth already. Lastly, I want to talk about Ideanomics. This is my most speculative company in here. As you can see through the loss, we can also see some of the $5 or the 5% loss, 50 cent, 5 cent closing. You can see that we've actually moved almost a full dollar, which is right at 33% just over the past 5 days. This is kind of falling into the EV stock type of world. Again, you see the EV right there. They do some on the financial side as well. This is purely a spec play, but I also like the fact that you can get 100 shares for relatively inexpensive. And at the time, I was selling covered calls for $30 a share. So that is something that's very encouraging. And these are the type of stocks that I'll just hold and sell covered calls until they have that random run up, and then I'll sell out of them. So if I purchase 100 shares for $250 for $200 and average down, I'm going to be okay. And if the share one day shoots up to $3 a share like this, I'll lose it and sell out of it, but that's okay because I'll be collecting that covered call income the entire time. So that's what we're looking at doing right here, is essentially just purchasing over and over and over and over again. And then as we make those purchases, you're going to be able to see that we just continue to sell these covered calls. They currently trade at the covered calls pretty much every month. So if, for example, we are looking at Aquabounty, when we're selling those covered calls, you can see the options chain. Right now, what I'm going to do is look at the January 15, although I will hold most likely until the 18th, depending on how low or high they get. But on the 15th, as you can see, the 750 call are looking right at anywhere between $95 to $100 if I sell that, and that'll be $100 in my pocket. The reason that that's awesome is because right there, you can see, hey, this is a $630 100 share option. And by getting $100 for that option play, particularly if it has another really strong day, as you can see some of that continued move after hours, the advantage here is that you once again get to cash in off of a sixth of your total input right off the bat. So that's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm going to continue pushing for. I like the strategy, and as you can see, we're already seeing growth in the portfolio. So if you found this content helpful, please leave a like and subscribe down below. And if you want to join the community, then join the Discord. Appreciate you all. Talk to you later.